Today's video, I'm going to share with you my success plan for gardening at high altitude in 2025. I've had so many gardening failures related to living in a challenging climate. We're in zone 4B that has extreme temperatures and a lot of snow. And I want to help you avoid all of the challenges and frustrations that I have experienced over the past 8 years of living and trying to grow in the mountains. It was really frustrating to me that it seemed like I was the only one struggling. Everybody else is coming in with loads of tomatoes and zucchini coming out their ears, and I'm over here struggling to get one little tiny tomato to grow before the season's over. But I'm not ready to give it all up and quit just yet, because I really want my garden to grow. So this year I've got the ultimate plan. It's going to solve all of my challenges of high altitude growing in one fell swoop. I'm going to cover the 5 main challenges that you really need to overcome to successfully grow at high altitudes, including my ultimate plan, which I consider to be the game changer. It's going to change everything and then finally ensure success in my garden this year and going forward. For context, my elevation is at 9,300 feet in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. Definitely presents unique challenges. So I'm going to quickly tell you what those are and then outline my plan for each one, including at the end of the video, my ultimate plan, which will solve all of them. So the first one is the intense sun that's unique to high altitudes. When we're a lot closer to the sun, the UV rays are much stronger here, and that can cause 2 significant problems with growing plants. The first is that it's just a lot hotter in the middle of the day. With that strong sun, the plants think it's like middle of the summer, so they go to flower and bolt very quickly. Also, another thing that happens is dwarfing. So sometimes the plants will sense that strong sun and they won't have as big of leaves. They'll be smaller, things will be more dense and compact. Now the solution to this is to mitigate the sun by using a shade cloth. They work really well. In fact, I have a community garden where they regularly use shade cloth. It can be a little bit of a nuisance to use just because it can flop around and the wind can blow it. But when done right, it can be really effective for helping to mitigate that really strong sun and provide cooler temperatures overall so you don't get that bolting of your greens early in the season. Okay, well, number 2 is a short growing season. At zone 4B, our frost dates are very close together, June 9th to September 9th. Not a lot of days in between to get things to come to fruit very easily. That kind of limited me for growing things that were just cold weather tolerant. I was doing a lot of greens and peas and beans. I could get fast veggies like zucchini and squash to grow, but I could never get things like peppers, cucumbers, or tomatoes to come to fruit. There's several ways to help extend a growing season. You can use things like hoop rows by putting coverage over your plants. You could use cold frames. We also, like I mentioned before, we battle excessive wind here. I really wasn't confident about putting hoop rows in because I thought it would all blow away. Number 3 is the large temperature swings that happen between day and night. This is pretty unique to high altitude living as well. So we'll get that really hot sun midday and it can feel like it's 90 degrees up here. And then in the nighttime, it can drop to 50 degrees or lower. And your soil never really gets that warm. So that definitely limits certain things to grow. So you just don't get the heating degree days, and it definitely limits the kind of crops that need warm soil. So no sweet potatoes, no tomatoes, no okra. And check out the only tomato that grew off my tomato plant. And I had this plant sitting on the deck where the temperatures are the hottest, trying to be the most temperature controlled, and it still didn't happen. And the things that I mentioned before, cold frames, hoop rows, things that help contain temperature can help with this. Also, if you're able to create a thermal mass to help store heat, the daytime heat, so like a pile of rocks or bricks or even drums of water painted black, something that can absorb the heat of this daytime and then release it overnight can help mitigate some of those temperatures. I hadn't tried any of those yet, but my plan this year definitely is going to use a thermal mass. Number 4 is wildlife. I know this is kind of a common challenge for a lot of areas, no matter where you live. Wildlife coming in to eat up the garden. Because we're more rural and closer to the woods, we definitely have everything from voles to moose to deer to rabbits to mice, fox even. There's a lot of problems that we have coming through here that it's hard to control for. Now, I do have a solar electric fence around my beehives, and that can be, fencing can definitely be a great option to deter pests. And aside from fencing, you can use other deterrents, physical or visual, thinking about scarecrows or aluminum pans that flash or things that move, things that have an ultrasonic sound can deter voles. I even tried putting in raised beds right next to the house that maybe they'd be scared from the dog or something. And while that might keep rabbits and deer away, it does nothing for the moose, it does nothing for the voles or the chipmunks. It wasn't a fail-safe solution. And finally, number 5, this challenge is relevant at any elevation, and that is soil nutrition. Getting more nutrition into the soil is key for succeeding at gardening at any altitude. In the Rocky Mountains, a lot of what our soil is just decomposed granite. We don't have a lot of nutrition coming in. We don't have a lot of organic material. In the past, I have tried amending soil in my garden beds with some alpaca manure or some fertilizer or even a little bit of compost, but I had never quite put in the ultimate effort in really making sure that my garden soil is thoroughly nutrient dense. So this year I might try something like getting a full load of compost from our organic nursery down the hill. I've got a home composter. I might start incorporating more compost into that. And I might even implement some soil testing to help make sure I've got a good balance of all the nutrients that you need for a healthy garden to thrive. So what's my big plan for making sure my garden succeeds this year? That is to build a permanent greenhouse. In fact, the style will be a geodesic dome, and it will be year-round. Not only is it going to help extend the growing season, but it'll help regulate those daytime to nighttime temperatures with underground air circulation. Inside, the plants will be well protected from high winds, frost, snow, and those nuisance wildlife critters. So this year, I am so excited to think that I'm investing my time and energy into gardening without such little return that I've had in the past several years. Although the greenhouse is in the process of being built, it should be ready to go by next season. I can't wait to share all the unusual things I'm going to be able to grow in a year-round greenhouse that once seemed impossible. In fact, if you want to see more of my ideas about the greenhouse, definitely check out this video on my interior design ideas for the greenhouse. There's a lot of cool stuff I'm going to do inside. It's going to be amazing. But I want to hear from you. What kind of successes or challenges have you faced trying to grow at high altitudes or even in zone 4B? Let me know in the comments, and definitely subscribe to see how my garden turns out this year.